So, hi everyone, welcome to the Wellbeing Week 2023. It's our virtual Wellbeing Week, 3 days of sessions on various topics around menopause or cancer and anything that affects it. And we're going to talk today about travel after a diagnosis. And my guest is Fiona McRae, the founder of Insurancewith. So, hi Fiona.
Hi there, thank you for having me.
No problem at all. So thank you for joining us for this quick session. I know we have our live session, which is on the 22nd of February at 3 o'clock. So there's still time to register, everyone. If you want to sign up, you can. And we're just going to talk today about some top tips, just kind of general information about traveling with a diagnosis or a medical illness. So So the first one I was going to ask you about was, what points should we be aware of when looking for travel insurance after a secondary breast cancer diagnosis?
Okay, well, my first number one tip is never exclude the cancer from any travel insurance policy that you take out. It's not just as simple as you're excluding cancer or any treatment of the cancer while you're abroad. What you are actually excluding is anything that can be attributed to your cancer or the treatment of cancer. So if I use myself as an example, because I'm a secondary breast cancer patient as well, the medication that I take can cause my bone density to reduce, so I'm more prone to broken bones. I also used to take a medication that would make me more prone to DVTs. Now, if I hadn't declared my cancer, if I go on holiday and I get a DVT, that also wouldn't be covered. And also, if I break a bone, it could be attributed to the treatment of my cancer, so that wouldn't be covered as well. So that's why I always recommend that you do not exclude the cancer. It's not just cancer you're excluding, it's the treatment of it. And to give you an idea, I always suggest to people, read the side effects of all the medications you take. Right. That's all the things that you could be excluding your cover for. So right. Just be very careful if that's something that you decide to do.
So you should always, more or less, if you're in that situation, it's better to declare it than not, and then find out the situation after you've declared it. Yeah
exactly.
Perfect. So Fiona, if that's your top tip, is there any other tips that you would suggest for anyone who's watching?
Yes, absolutely. So many of us actually have travel insurance policies with maybe banks or work or husband's work or something like that. So my second tip would be to always check that first to see if there's any cover there available for you. Now, after a cancer diagnosis and a secondary cancer diagnosis, you would have to probably call them up, declare the condition. Now, some banks will cover it, some won't. But I always recommend that you check that first, because that could be the most cost-effective way of getting cover. So always do that first. And if they will cover you, make sure you get that in writing as well.
Okay.
The next tip I would give is check your activities on the policies that you buy. So a lot of travel insurance policies might be quite restrictive in the activities that you can do. So for example, if you want to go skiing, you would need to get a winter sports policy and make sure that all the winter sports that you're doing are covered under that winter sports policy. So always check those little things. So it's not, we tend to, once you've had a cancer diagnosis, just wrapped up in everything to do with the cancer.
Absolutely.
But other little bits around the outside as well. So I always recommend checking your activities.
And I think that's actually really good, because I think those are the things that we probably would skip, not meaning to, but it just wouldn't cross your mind because you're so in the cancer situation that you think that's all you have to declare. So that's actually really interesting to remember to do those things.
And then I would also really highlight that I see a lot of people saying that they're traveling on their EHIC or GHIC cards, which are the old European health cards. Now, again, I just need to make people aware that those cards are great, but they are no replacement for a travel insurance policy. So you will get cover in the countries that they're covered for. So check what countries are covered under the EHIC and GHIC. It changed slightly after Brexit, so check that. but you know, it's not always free, the healthcare there. So if a national of that country that you're traveling to pays for anything, it could be ambulance, it could be medication, it could be nursing care, you also will have to pay that. So it's not free. I think, you know, the UK is probably one of the only countries that benefits from such a wide-reaching social health care as we do with the NHS.
People would generally think if they've got this card, they're covered, but actually there's a lot of things that it would omit that you
Exactly.
might if you've not thought about it prior to your travel.
Yeah. And the big thing that you won't be covered for is any repatriation back home. So a lot of people would say, I'll just get a cheap flight, I'll jump on a flight and it'll be no problem. You might not be in a position to do that. Right. That's great if you can do that and you can get on a flight, but be aware, say if you break a bone and you're trying to get home and you rock up at the airport, say with a moon boot on your foot, the airline would maybe ask you, where's your fit to fly letter? They might insist that you have a medical escort with you because of that. So there's all of those things. So it might not be as simple as buying the cheapest flight home.
So you could almost be stranded. So that whole thing about just trying to get the correct cover in the beginning, that covers as many things, and thinking about all those things is the best way forward.
Yeah, I mean, 9 times out of 10, it won't happen to you, but it is that 10th time. And if it does happen to you, that's when it gets really, really expensive. And we see it all summer long, people putting out GoFundMe pages when they weren't covered under their travel insurance.
Can't get home, or they can't pay for treatment or whatever. And as you say, the travel insurance just gives you that peace of mind as well when you're going away. When particularly, like, as I say, for me as well, as a stage 4 cancer patient, if I'm going to go on holiday, I want to be as relaxed as possible and just enjoy my time and not have to stress about anything happening. Hopefully it won't.
No. And do you know what? 9 times out of 10, it doesn't.
Yeah.
But if it does, you want to know that you are covered and you don't have to worry about it.
Those are fabulous tips, Fiona. Thank you. So I hope everyone will.
I've got one more.
One more for me. Fabulous. Save the best to last.
Save the best to last. Well, again, this is quite an important one. So I also see a lot of people, you know, the person that's got the cancer or the medical condition will take out a specific medical travel insurance policy. But the rest of their traveling party will be on their own standard policies. But what I need to make people aware of was, if the holidays cancelled due to your condition, so you know, if you're a family and it's me, say mum, and we've got to cancel the holiday because of something to do with my medical condition, if I didn't have the rest of my family on that policy, only I could claim for that cancellation. My husband and my son, if they were, say, on our bank policy that won't cover me, there's no cover under that because they haven't declared my cancer.
So you could potentially be losing money for the rest of the family.
The rest of the family.
So the cancer, the travel insurance that you take out, your best to cover everyone on the same.
Your best, or anybody that you're traveling with, or if the holiday depends on you.
Right.
And
okay. I see what you mean. Yeah.
Then nobody else wants to go. Then I would suggest all of that traveling party gets on the one policy and declares your medical condition. So then everybody's got that cancellation cover. Yeah. Should they need it again? 9 times out of 10 they won't. But if it's there, then everybody's covered. Again, it's something we see all the time. You know, I see on, you know, like which people get complaints, and Martin Lewis, I see all these complaints, and that's, you know, that's lot of reason people, for it. You see people saying they weren't covered and they just didn't realise that bit. So that's another.
And I think you wouldn't realise that. I mean, I must admit that never even crossed my mind until you said it. That you know, someone else would lose out if it was a factor of you being unwell and having to cancel, because a lot of people maybe do take out separate insurance. So it's good to know those tips and tricks, and to bear all that stuff in mind when you're making that plan for the holiday.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's perfect. Thank you for that. Those are great tips.
You're welcome.
So can you give us any advice on where to look for travel insurance cover after a secondary breast cancer diagnosis? Yeah,
so I think after you've had a diagnosis, even of
Any
primary
diagnosis really, yeah.
primary or secondary.
Yeah.
Looking for travel insurance can feel quite soul destroying, because you go back to all the people that you used to use and nobody's going to cover you.
Yes.
And it can be really, really disheartening. But I'm here to say there is cover available. Hurrah! So my first suggestion, and I'll share the link with Claire, so Claire will be able to link this for
Thank
you. Is to go to the Money Helper website, which is the government-run website, and they've got a travel insurance directory on there for this very reason, to help people with medical conditions find suitable travel insurance. However, one of my note of caution on there is many specialist travel insurance providers, and I wouldn't suggest for 1 minute you try every one of them. The top tip when using Money Helper website is to look for travel insurance providers that use different medical screening systems. Pick excuse me, pick one from each. Money Helper very helpfully identify the medical screening systems each provider uses. So it's quite easy for you to see that, and make sure you just pick one and you've got one from each system.
Yeah.
So that would be my first tip. Once you've done that, I would then suggest go to a comparison site, a medical comparison site, or Money Supermarket, any one of them really. It doesn't matter which one, but only one of them, because they all use the same medical screening system. So the outcome you get from them is not going to differentiate much between each provider. So just pick one and get a price from there as well. So then you've managed to have a look at your Money Helper, and then you've looked at a comparison site. And that's the broadest look at what's available in the market for you, and the rough costs that you're going to pay. So that's my advice. And there's lots of choice on those websites. And just the other note of caution is, if you do have secondary breast cancer, you might be asked to call as well for a quote. Don't be disheartened if you're asked to call up to give further details. It's just whoever that, they just need to understand a bit more detail about you. So
and I think that's really helpful, because I think for me personally it is the disheartening bit, because I think you automatically think, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to go on holiday again, or like that part of your life stops. And I think
especially because
you're used to going to someone who doesn't specialise as well.
And because you've probably tried all the standard ones that
and
are
it's costing more than your holiday itself.
And they've all turned you down, or it's costing you a fortune. So you just feel like, oh my God, it's cancer, the gift that never stops giving.
Exactly. So Money Helper, I must admit, I'd never heard of. So that's really interesting. So is it something that maybe will be new to lots of people, Money Helper, or is it?
It might be. It was launched. I think it was launched just before the pandemic, actually. But I think it all got lost in that pandemic noise. We all stopped traveling.
And the COVID world.
And the COVID world, and we all stopped traveling. So then it was unimportant. And now now we're coming back out the other end. We're all wanting to travel again. So a lot of people don't know about it. But I would recommend that's everybody's first start is Money Helper.
Really interesting. I don't even think that we've got that in our support hub, which is our signposting website. So I'm going to add that as a task to add on as well, because that's a really important website. So thank you for that info. Really, really helpful. And so Fiona, the last question that I was going to ask in this wee top tips section is, do you have any tips that could help us get cover or to reduce the cost of cover?
Yes. So the key is always be as flexible as possible. So, and that's with when you're going to travel and your destination. I know, you might have some particular destination, your heart set on it. But, I know from experience traveling after a cancer diagnosis, sometimes it's not the destination, it's just getting away from home and everything at home that reminds you that you've got cancer. The appointment letters sitting on the dining room table, all the pill boxes sitting on the side, or is that just me? I don't know.
No, that's not just you, Fiona. That sounds exactly like my life too.
Cancer paraphernalia everywhere. So it's just reminding you that you've got cancer. And I find that, you're getting away on holiday regardless of where it is
Right.
that it gets a little bit of you back, and
Yeah.
you can be you, and people don't know you've got cancer, and it can just be the break. So again, be flexible, don't be tied up on a certain destination. So depending on where you are in your treatment, how you're responding to your treatment, it might only be possible to get cover for mainland Europe, for example.
Right, okay.
But still, you can still get away and have that holiday. But it might just not be, that American or Mexican holiday that you dreamed of, but you can still get a holiday in Europe.
It's almost like that kind of new normal that we have to adjust to when it comes to our life. We just have to do that slightly the same way when it comes to thinking about travel and going away. We can still do it, but we have to just tweak
to where you're going. And then, obviously for reducing costs, again, if you're going to travel to Europe, that's going to be a lot cheaper than going to Asia, but then going to Asia is going to be a lot cheaper than going to America.
Okay.
And then, even like the likes of Thailand and things like that will be cheaper to travel to than Mexico, for example. So that's how to look at that. Look at your destination when you're thinking about cost. Again, if you're unsure, just phone up some travel insurance providers and say, what do you recommend? Where do you think I should look? What would be the most cost-effective place for me to look for? And again, with flexibility in mind, also be flexible about when you're going to travel. So, for example, if you've just changed treatment, you're going to need some time to settle down into your new treatment. So it might be 6 weeks, it might be 8 weeks, it might be 12 weeks, so that all the side effects are managed and things like that. So you might not be able to get cover until you've had that settled period and your side effects are managed on treatment. The same goes for any surgeries, radiotherapy. You will need a period of settling in and making sure all the side effects, or if you've had surgery, your wounds are healed and there's no risk of picking up infections and things abroad. So it might be a matter of moving the dates of your holiday. Again, that flexibility that you would need. So again, just consider that. And also, I would stress that look for a single trip policy first. A lot of people, because we've all pre-cancer, we all used to have annual multi-trip policies, and then all of a sudden we can't get those. And again, that's part of the soul destroy, I can't get cover. But you might be able to get single trip policy. So I would always recommend, first thing to do is look for a single trip policy. If you can get cover for that, then see if you can get the multi-trip. You might well be able to. But I think it just helps with more the mood.
Absolutely.
It's just also soul destroying if you can get the single trip quote.
The word of the day is definitely flexible. It's the flexibility. If you can be as open-minded with it, just with the end goal being that you're actually going to get to go away and have a rest and have some, and not think about cancer and not think about what's at home. So if you can be as flexible as possible in that, then that's going to give you the best outcome. Hopefully.
And just one final thing is that if you do have any undiagnosed conditions, maybe you've got a new symptom and you're waiting for diagnosis of that, unfortunately, that you're not going to get cover until you've had that diagnosis. That's one of the things, and a lot of people find that quite confusing.
Right.
But
you have to have that confirmed.
You need to know that
because have it included.
And because the insurer needs to know what they're covering.
That makes sense. No, that makes perfect sense.
You could have had a cough. Now it could just be you've got a chest infection. You need an antibiotic, or if you've got lung secondaries, it could be progression of that, and you might need to change treatment. Whatever it is, it needs to be diagnosed first before the insurer can actually consider looking at covering it. So so if you are waiting for that, you're not going to be able to get travel insurance until you have that diagnosis of any new conditions. We all have our scans every 3 months, 4 months, or whatever the routine is.
Yeah.
You know, waiting for those scans is not going to stop you getting cover, because they are just considered routine scans. That's just part and parcel of our life now. It's any sort of new pains, that new scans that your doctor's gone, you know,
right. Okay.
Oh, actually, we're going to have to look into that because I'm not quite sure what that is. Then that's when you'd have to wait for the diagnosis.
I think that's quite important as well, because I think people would probably confuse that, thinking that the scan is going to dictate. But actually, as you say, if it's become routine in your life with your treatment plan,
yeah, if it's part of
it's
that,
already part of that, so therefore it shouldn't really affect the decision.
No,
I think that would be confusing to people. I know, so you've explained it great to me, so I now understand.
Yes, so that's it. So anything. Yeah, I mean, we've all got routine appointments, routine scans. It's nothing out the ordinary. What I'm trying to highlight here is anything out the ordinary. If anything goes on outside your normal treatment routine? Everybody's treatment routine's different. So it's very difficult for insurers to go, if it's this, it's this. So that's why they say anything outside your normal treatment routine.
Definitely not going to be a one policy suits all. It's one of those things like you just have to be as transparent as possible, as flexible as possible.
I think that's
hopefully your end goal of a holiday will be there in sight to look forward to.
You can. There is cover available, but flexible, transparency. They're all the key words.
And I think, as you say, I think for the stage 4 cancer world, I think just knowing that it is possible is huge. So that just having these top tips as well for things that we can do to make the progression of getting that holiday easier, I think is great for the community. So so I want to say thank you for sharing the top tips with me.
You're more than welcome.
We'll definitely share the money, what was the website again?
Money Helper.
Money Helper. It's not Money Lender. I knew that was wrong when I said it, so I knew that wasn't right.
Money Helper Travel Insurance.
So we'll get that on the website. And I'm really looking forward to, as I say, our chat on the 22nd of February around the Q&A with the community about travelling with cancer in general. So
looking forward to it too.
So thank you so much for your time, Fiona, and thanks for
you're
sharing
more than welcome. More than welcome.
Thank you. Bye. Everyone.